Slàinté, y'all. It's Tuesday night. Scotch on the Bayou. Welcome. Bienvenue. So glad everyone is here. I'm super stoked about tonight in our program that we have in our special guest. I've been a fangirl of this woman for a while and then was lucky enough to encounter her a few times on social media and then especially kind of get to know her a little bit more during our Advent calendar time with George Kaplan here. You'll see but yeah, so I'm super stoked about that. And been a big whiskey week already. I had buddies over last Thursday night, Saturday night. Our secret whiskey group got together, and we that's where we kind of pool our money for a big bottle, and we ended up getting a 1983 old Pulteney, 33-year-old, which was just unbelievable. And as briny and malty as the 12 and the 17 especially are, that 33-year whiskey was just voluptuous. And really, I didn't get salt until the finish. It was very, very interesting. So yeah, culminate all that till to tonight. We've got cocktails, Scotch whiskey cocktails we're going to be talking about tonight. And then tomorrow, I get on a plane and a fly west, and I will get into Seattle tomorrow night. Have Thursday will be in Westland Distillery Thursday, and then Friday go over to the Victoria Whiskey Festival over in British Columbia. So it's big. I'm just like, I don't know. It's hard to. I was just telling Jessica a while ago. I don't know if I'm gonna sleep tonight. I'm so excited. So anyway, well, let's see who all is in and say hello. Crypto Wolf had to run and take care of a puppy. I totally understand that. Thanks for trying to be here. And hey, Mo, Molasses is here. In Mark JG, one of those folks that was here last week. We had the best time and had such great drams. Good to see you, Martin. I imagine you've been traveling a good bit and bringing souls into the world. So keep up the great work, friend. Jimmy Jazz is here. Yes, it's great to see Jessica. Jimmy was on that epic advent calendar with us. So we're gonna get in there. Andrew Butler. Hey, Andrew. Thanks for being up in the middle of the night to come and join us. I think you'll have fun with this show as well. But yeah, so we are going to talk about cocktails. And, especially when it comes to Scotch, I think sometimes I know that I was really kind of into cocktail culture because frankly, I love the glassware. I love the old swanky swigs, especially from the 60s. They're all groovy. And the whole Mad Men thing was in about that time. And so it was like all about the cocktail. And when you kind of look at that and you think that primarily if it has anything to do with whiskey, then you're thinking, an old fashioned, or you're thinking about bourbon or rye. And I don't know that we always think about Scotch as an element within our cocktails. So tonight we are going to talk about that and how to put Scotch in a cocktail, not to be afraid of it. And I cannot think of anyone better than to the guest that we have tonight. And her name is Dr. Jessica Spector. She is the brain part of the doctor, if you know what I mean. She's PhD, and she is actually a professor at Yale, and she's a philosophy professor. And right now, she's doing a drinks culture class at Yale. Yeah, that. She also has a farm, and she's got bees and eggs, and she's doing all kinds of things, growing stuff on her farm, and she's a very busy lady. And I want her to talk more about what she's doing, what she's studying, what she's writing about. But understanding the philosophy and the psychology even behind the drinks culture is her expertise. And please welcome Jessica Spector to Scotch on the
Hi,
Bayou.
everyone.
Thanks
Hi.
for being here, friend.
Thanks for having me, and it's nice to see so many familiar folks in the chat. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We have quite a few here. We've got Gregor, who's out west. He's just getting back. He's been globetrotting all over. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. But yeah, so tell us about, like, how'd you get into drinks culture, and why is it important for us to start thinking about using scotch in our cocktails?
Well, it's the best spirit. So I got into I actually got into Scotch at the same time that I got into what I do for a living. So the same time I got into philosophy. So I was in Scotland studying philosophy, and at a pardon me, some of you have heard this story before, but at a really bad time in the Scotch whiskey industry. So in the very early 90s, when a lot of distilleries were closing. And for a student, it was an easy time to try a lot of whiskeys. And my mom was a bourbon drinker, didn't drink Scotch because her mom drank Scotch. So I hadn't tried a lot of Scotch. The men in my family didn't drink, the women drank. And so I would walk around when I was on break and, on lunch break and stuff, and try stuff. People would give it away as free samples. And I got to try a lot of really interesting, amazing things. And when I came back to the US, it was very difficult to find stuff. So every time I would go to Scotland, I would come back, coming through customs, like clink, clink, clink. No, I don't have anything. We all know that.
No, look the
that
other way.
deal.
Pay no attention to the woman carrying lots of
Yeah.
glassware.
And I just my obsession kind of grew from there. And I'm an ethics teacher, and so about 5 years ago, a really good friend of mine, who John Clark Janetti, who owns a wonderful bar in New Haven, has been teaching cocktail making classes and bar bar ethics classes to Yale students for years. Was talking to students about like the history of imperialism and cocktails, and like how malaria was a problem for the British Navy, and how that led to the gin and tonic and stuff. And students were like, you should teach a class on this stuff. And John talked to me about it, and I was like, we totally should teach a class on that. And so we came up with this class about, at the time we titled the class The Business and Ethics of Cocktails. And the class has changed over the years, and now it's the ethics and aesthetics of drink culture, the ethics and aesthetics of drink. And we talk about sort of the history of America the last 150 years through cocktails. And it's sort of like a class about like the taboo through drink. Wine, women, and song, that kind of thing, through drink.
You getting up to no good with that drink.
Yes. Yeah.
It is interesting how all types come by it, in different places in the country. Coming from the deep South, it was a DIY kind of thing down here. Not to say that there weren't bootleggers up north, but the whole reason NASCAR started was because of bootlegging. Because people were making hot rods to outrun, the feds.
I actually learned that from a student of mine who wrote a paper on it. Yeah, I learn stuff from students all the time. That's fascinating, like that.
Yeah.
Learn about light beer, anyway, you can learn about anything through food and drink, I think.
Yep.
And it's so important to people, right? Like what we eat and drink is the most important thing to people.
Well, I think, a lot of it comes with our identity, in South Louisiana. Come on, folks. You talk about New Orleans, you talk about South Louisiana, the first thing you think about is food. Other than heat, mosquitoes, alligators, food, maybe some football in there too. But our culture and who we are is wrapped into what we eat, and certainly carries over to what we drink and how we drink.
You can drive around it anywhere in the country and you can think, oh, it all looks the same, but it doesn't. If you walk into, let's say, a strip mall in America, things look the same, but the food isn't the same. And even if you walk into, say, a chain store where you think it's going to be the same, stuff on the menu isn't the same. The food isn't the same. And Louisiana is particularly not the same as other places. But even if you think, I could be anywhere in America, if you pay attention to what people are eating and drinking, no, you couldn't.
Yeah.
It's certain kind of pizza here, a different kind of pizza there. Even the thickness of the pizza, or the kind of cheese, or like how watery the sauce is going to be different wherever you are, or what people take in their coffee, or whether they put milk in their tea or not. It's going to be different wherever you are.
Yeah.
Or what kind of whiskey they drink, or what they call their whiskey, whether they call it rye, if it is rye or not. You can tell a Canadian from an American. So,
all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, when it comes to Scotch cocktails, I think being in New Orleans, kind of playing off of that, cocktails are a big part of New Orleans. And a lot of people think that the cocktail itself started in New Orleans. And I mean, we have a cocktail museum in New Orleans, and even part of the pharmacy museum and all of that. Kind of the back door of the pharmacy kind of made some cocktails up, and the whole idea of the bitters that came out of and patient bitters that came out of New Orleans, is part of an integral part of that cocktail scene. The coffee houses in New Orleans, that was a really big thing. It was like Prohibition. There was coffee houses because there weren't any bars. Well, and I think within like a 8-block area, there were 100 something coffee houses, and they all had a speakeasy in the back. Okay. That's just what they were. And that's where the locals went. That's where the politicians went. That's where, all manner of socioeconomic people in New Orleans at that time had their own coffee house to do that. If anyone is ever in New Orleans, on Canal, very close to the river, is the Sazerac House. And it is an absolutely beautiful representation and time capsule of the coffee house and how that was all set up with the Sazerac rye or Sazerac cognac at that time, way, way back in the day, and how that was used for the cocktail, the Sazerac, which is, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, well, the old fashions in New Orleans thing. And it can be, but the Sazerac is New Orleans cocktail.
And it was originally cognac made with Sazerac cognac. Yes. And then when phylloxera hit, the little bug that destroyed European grape industry, the wine industry, the New Orleans had to figure out something else to make the drink out of.
Yep.
And so they thought, well, how about rye? And the guy that owned the Sazerac coffee house at the time was from Maryland and thought rye, because rye was from the north. Yep. And so he knew that, I think that'll work in the drink because it's got that same sort of oomph to it.
Yep.
And so switched over to rye, and that's how the Sazerac became the name of a drink, because originally the name of the coffee house had been sort of an advertisement for them selling that famous brandy there.
Yep.
Sazerac brandy.
And the Sazerac brandy was from the regions, the Sazerac region of France, right? Or
I thought it was just the name of the
the actual name of the it's all coming back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So And if I mean, while we're like metaphorically in New Orleans, the Hotel Roosevelt is one of my favorite places. And I mean, it's just this old world, and has so much history with this particular one, this hotel. And actually, it was closed for, I want to say, 7 or 10 years after Katrina. It was tough that Grand Dame, was not in all her glory, but she's absolutely beautiful now. But the Sazerac bar is in there, and the Ramos Gin Fizz, that was a really big drink back then, still is. That little cocktail menu that I have from the Sazerac bar, I think it was like $1.20 for a Ramos Gin Fizz, because they'd have the back bar boys shaking egg white like maniacs to make that froth, on that drink. And to the point where Huey P. Long, the senator, illustrious senator of Louisiana, was not real happy that they couldn't make it in New York. So he took the bartender on the train with him and took him all the way up to New York to the Roosevelt Hotel up there to teach the bar staff how to make the Ramos Gin Fizz the way he wanted it.
Because he missed his Ramos Gin Fizz.
Yes. And he was very eccentric. But LSU is a fabulous university because of his wickedness. So I'm not going to cast many stones.
I was saying to Leanne before we started, New Orleans kept the flame of the cocktail alive when things got really bad in the rest of America during the dark days of the 80s, when I'm old and I remember this time when the rest of people were drinking, Long Island iced teas and the stuff that's coming back for my students. They all are like, yay, a lemon drop, But when people thought that was the height of drinking sophistication, was I mean, not that I could drink a lemon drop, I guess. New Orleans still had good drinks.
Yes,
I mean, New Orleans has always had good drinks and good food. You guys know how to drink. And I'm from Long Island, so I mean, but Long Island iced tea, really?
Yeah. Not everything do you partake of from your homeland?
Not everything.
Yeah.
I have to tell people there's something you have to do before we have the drink at the end.
Okay.
So you don't have to have the right glassware, but I'm going to assume some people are like Leanne and fixated on glassware. So if you have, it just came from nowhere, a Nick and Nora, a martini glass, some sort of coupe glass. If you don't have one like in the fridge, I don't have space in my fridge for that kind of stuff. A way to quickly chill it is to put ice cubes in it and water in it, and then just set it aside for later.
Okay.
So that's a way to chill it.
That's great.
Just put ice and water in it and set it aside so that it'll be cold for later, because the drink we're going to do it later should be cold.
Awesome.
And I know as Scotch drinkers, you're probably like, cold? Because we don't always drink cold drinks, right?
Right.
So, but this one should. So just do that for later.
Well, good. Well, let me say hi to a few other folks. Michael's in. Peter, yes. I do hope to see Food Quick and Trinity and C. Let Trinity and C know that I was definitely going to be up there in Victoria. So it's going to be super excited. Barter, great to see you here. Appreciate you coming in, friend. And Mark JG and Zach are in. Thanks, guys. Our friend George Kaplan is here, of course, in 4 Leaf Whiskey. This woman, Stacy, if you haven't met her, she's absolutely wonderful and knows so much about Irish whiskeys. And I'm going to be doing a blind with her in a couple of weeks. I'm super excited about that. On her show. So we'll get all the details for that and share it out with everybody. But yeah, just kind of looking, we're getting, and Jim, Kim Rhetoric, good to see you, friend. And all of my Camp Drammers. I love it. Every time you see someone's using these fun little, if they've got an alligator by their name, they're a Camp Drammer. And it's a way to help support the channel for sure. So, oh my goodness. Yes, Mark, Trinity and C and Leanne in the same room. Fun. I'll get Jennifer to document it for sure. Hey, Doug. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. So do you want to talk about the different cocktails, or
Yes.
and even we're also going to talk about suggested bottles for the Scotch element within it. So you take it on and how you want to hit that.
Yeah. So I was saying I'm really excited to talk to Scotch people about cocktails rather than cocktail people about Scotch, because cocktail people are really fun, but usually very intimidated by Scotch. So I have to say, don't be scared of Scotch, and here's an easy Scotch to start with, and can never really get into like doing exciting things with Scotch, and that's not you all. So Leanne and I were talking about what cocktails to do, and we picked two at very different ends of the spectrum. So we're going to do a very simple one, which means we can do really interesting things with the Scotch in it, and a really complex one, which you have to pick a very particular kind of Scotch. So the first cocktail is the Godfather, which whenever you do something really simple, the core ingredients matter, as all Scotch people know, because you tend to, like, we drink Scotch neat, right?
Yeah.
So the Godfather only has 2 ingredients, which means if you're somebody who's like, that's not a cocktail, it only has 2 ingredients, because a cocktail is supposed to have 3 ingredients. Who cares, right? It's a mixed drink. It's Scotch and amaretto. So you probably know amaretto. This is probably the most famous amaretto that people think of as an almond liqueur, but amaretto is actually not necessarily an almond liqueur. In fact, this one, I checked to make sure with like an allergy website. This actually supposedly has no almond in it. It's almond aroma, almond flavor.
Okay.
It's actually made from apricots, and most amaretto is made from some stone fruit that has the aroma of almonds.
So I think, and I want to jump on that real quick, because I think some of the ingredients, and this one having 2 is awesome, because I can handle 2. But when you kind of get into some of the other things, people just don't really know what those are. So I love that you kind of demystified what amaretto is right off the bat.
Well, there's having a drink out, and there's making a drink at home, right?
Yeah.
I mean, having a drink out, it's like, go ahead and put 10 things in it and do this little technique, but we're not going to do that at home, right? I mean, I'm not going to do that at home. Maybe some of you are. I'm not. I'm not going to do it well at home. I'm not a bartender. It's got to. I got to feel really energetic to do something other than pour a whiskey in a glass, right?
I mean, it's real easy to drink Scotch neat. I mean, no
yeah,
muss, no
and
fuss,
enjoy
right?
it, and enjoy it. So if you're going to do something, my partner likes to say that a cocktail is date night for your spirit, right? You don't always want to put on heels or a tie, right? But if you're going to put on heels or a tie, like, it doesn't mean you want to put on a tux or like 4-inch heels. I'm never putting on 4-inch heels ever again, not ever in my life, like I ever did. So if you put 2 ingredients together and you serve it to some people coming over for dinner, then you made a cocktail.
Yeah,
you made a mixed drink. Yeah. So should I do it?
Please do.
Okay.
So this is the Godfather.
This is the Godfather, from the 70s, like some of us, barely the 70s, but the 70s. You can either build it in the glass, that means make it in the glass, or you can shake it. Some people shake it, or you can stir it cold in a fancy mixing glass. I'm fancy, so I have a fancy mixing glass, and it's got water in it now. So how do you want? Are you going to make it, Leanne? Or
you just no, I don't have the stuff to make it, so I'm going to watch. It's just the idea that it's not a whole lot. Oh, so you're going to go smoky with it?
I'm gonna, because we're not afraid of Ardbeg, right?
Yeah. So an Ardbeg 10, everybody knows what that tastes like,
Yeah, because I think Ardbeg 10 is just good. Some people make this 1-to-1, but I think that's too sweet. If you're afraid of Scotch, then like if you're making this for, let's say we're making this for people coming over for dinner and you think someone's afraid of Scotch, then maybe make a 1-to-1. But if you're not afraid of Scotch and you're afraid of sweet, then maybe do 3-to-1 or 2-to-1. And what that, I assume you know what that means. I'm not going to shake it. I don't want to shake it. I'm going to build it in the glass. This is where I was like, are you sure you want me to make them on camera?
Yeah. It's like show and tell.
I'm already confused. Okay.
It's cool.
I'm going to do something you would never do if you were a bartender, because I'm going to drink it. So I'm doing this with my hands.
Okay. Well, so like time out. I'm not a bartender. You said you're not a bartender. And that's the whole point. I think we sometimes are afraid to even experiment something if we haven't been trained or don't know about that kind of thing. But this is a perfect example of it's okay. You can play with your whiskey. We play with our whiskey, add water to it. You can play with your whiskey this way.
Okay, then another thing. I'm not going to use a jigger.
I don't do it bacon. I just, when I normally cook, I'm like.
I do measure though. When I make cocktails. I do measure, because when you're making a cocktail and there's such small little amounts of things, not with this drink, but with the next drink that we're going to make, it can really make a difference in balance in taste. So I do measure, but I like the little.
That's cool.
I'm not making drinks for 30 people with 2 hands, so I don't need to be really fast. So
yeah, gotcha.
So I'm going to do 2-to-1. So 2 ounces of. Then I'm going to pass it off to my husband, because otherwise I'd fall asleep on camera. So 2 ounces of the Ardbeg. I'm going to build it over ice.
Okay.
So only get 1 glass dirty.
I love it. Hey, stuff for work. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Jim, who's Mr. Highland Park in my eyes, says The Godfather is on their standard list of weekend cocktails.
Oh, cool. Awesome. If you look online, they have all these variations on it, like the Godchild, the Godmother, all these and some of them are kind of nasty, like vodka and amaretto, or just cream and amaretto. Just no. More power to you if you want that.
So you got 2 ounces of the Ardbeg, and then
1 of the amaretto. And if you want to be fancy, then you can.
We got to be fancy.
You can put in some orange bitters.
Some orange bitters. Okay. So we know we've got kind of a nice base, sweet, smoky Scotch. The amaretto is going to be that almondy type kind of flavor scent type thing, which is also very sweet, right? And then you're adding the acid type flavor of the orange bitters to it.
Just a little bit of orange, yeah. And orange is barely acidic. And that's it. And then an orange peel. I mean, if you want to.
Oh, man. Y'all are getting the full show tonight. I hope everybody appreciates this. Jim's also said the Knob Father is an amaretto, and Knob Creek is also. That one's pretty funny. Oh. I love that.
I'm doing this down here because I'm not doing it well, so I'm hiding.
Nope, that's cool. So
and then I'll come up with a really fancy piece of garnish.
Ta-da! So George is asking about the Toronto. Is like most distilled spirits, does it go bad or oxidize like Scotch if it's not properly handled? I don't keep vermouth as I don't use it enough. Yeah, that's my problem.
It's 28% alcohol and it's a lot of sugar, so I don't worry about it. Anything that's like over 25% alcohol, I don't put in the fridge, and it's really sweet, so I don't worry about it.
Okay.
If it's vermouth, put it in the fridge.
Okay.
Because vermouth is lower alcohol. High alcohol, high sugar, you don't have to worry. But low sugar, low alcohol, then you have to worry.
That's
And
really good to
then,
know. Slàinté.
cheers.
Oh my goodness, that
Slàinté.
looks divine. So you have to give us an idea what you're tasting, like kind of throw
So
some tasting notes in there.
the smoke, peat, cuts the sugar, cuts the sweet, and the almond taste, even though it's not almond, the almond taste comes through with the peat really nicely.
Ooh, I bet.
And
God,
I'm terrible at describing taste. That
you
is
really
not
are. You
my.
really
You've
got a
been
beverage
on
calendar.
tasting things with me, and I'm like, what he said. I'm bad at that. It's one of these things where the sum is greater than the parts. That's why I
Yes.
love cocktails, even though Scotch is my soul. I love cocktails because the sum is greater than the parts, and that's magic to me. So,
Well, I love the color too. You know, I think Demerara gave it a little zhuzh there. And then and even with the
amaretto can
orange
be a
twist.
little trashy on its own, a little trashy. It's made a comeback though. It's like in an amaretto sour, or these are like very 1970s, 1980s drinks. But this is a little more sophisticated.
Well, and
and supposedly it was named after The Godfather, the movie. So, sorry,
which is my husband's favorite movie. Which George, I've already made my thoughts known about the list for next year. But anyway, but that is such a good and in that, I mean, you could say, okay, from this particular cocktail, if you really want to go and stretch here, leave the gun, take the cannolis, so you have the gun smoke on the Ardbeg. You get the sweetness from, and wasn't Michael like in an orange grove, like when he was in Italy? I don't know. We're kind of stretching here, but it sounds really good.
I've never seen it.
Oh my word! What?
I know. Terrible.
2 was better, but it was really good. I just want to jump back here in the comments. Hey, Kevin, didn't get prepared tonight. I'm sorry, honey. You just go ahead and make yourself a penicillin anyway. I absolutely love that cocktail. Just love it.
A penicillin is a riff on one of the other drinks we were going to do, the Gold Rush. So.
Absolutely. So we have Jessica put together recipes for this. So I'm going to post those in the comments once the video is posted. So just go back and check that, and you'll be able to get all of the info on there. So I'm going to just jump in here and show you my quick and dirty cocktail. My ice cubes have melted a little bit, which is actually okay. So I was sharing, and for my northern friends, I apologize in advance, but it was 75 degrees today, and friggin' middle of January. It was so hot. We have the air conditioning on. I'm sorry, but it is the fact of life of how we live down here in South Louisiana. And there's a stretch of our year that it is very, very hot. And to sit down with a neat scotch is usually like got the fan blowing on me. Okay. Because it's hot. So if we're at the camp or it's a hot day here at the house, I'll make a highball. I usually use monkey shoulders, or I might use naked malt, old naked grouse. But for those who may have seen, we had a freak cold snap right before Christmas. And we have citrus trees. So I have a Meyer lemon tree in my backyard, and I have a satsuma tree. And the satsuma is like those little tangerine cuties that you get. I mean, hundreds of them on my tree. And we did all that we could. Everybody got satsumas for Christmas. Mark was out there cutting them because it was going to get down to the 20s and it would have ruined everything, ruined all the fruit. So we ended up squeezing most of the ones that we had left, and we froze the juice in ice cubes. So first of all, I absolutely adore these 1960s swanky swigs It's almost looks like granulated sugar. I just, God, I love these. Don't ever put these in the dishwasher for the love of God. And then what I ended up doing is I have ice cubes, the Satsuma ice cube that is in there. And so I am actually going to use naked malt, and I'm going to put that probably about 1.5 ounces in there like that, with the orange juice or Satsuma ice cubes. And then this is a Trader Joe's lemon elderflower soda because it's hot. I want something cold and fizzy and boozy. So I'm going to top that off with the scotch and the orange. So you've got this lemon and that elderflower is kind of a sweet thing. So you got some acid going in. The Satsuma it's very sweet. So Slàinté, friend, and look how pretty that is. Here, let's do a virtual toast. And clink. Oh, me. Yeah, that's pretty tasty. I mean, you get you definitely get the booze background on it. And as these ice cubes melt, they're just going to get more orangey in there.
That sounds wonderful.
Yum.
I'm envious of your Satsuma growing abilities.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to have citrus in your backyard. That's for sure. So Andrew was talking about just having a Lagavulin version of a smoky cookie with someone the other day. Yeah, I mean, if you need to do that, of course, Michael says it should be a federal crime to use Lagavulin, but it kind of all depends, you know. I do have there's one of my whiskey buddies here in town. His name is Austin. We call him the kid, and he always talks about using his Coke and Lafroig, and I'm like, dude, whatever he wants to do, you know.
You know, you have a pharmacy museum in New Orleans, or you used to. I hope it's still there.
It's still there.
And it's so fascinating that the history of pharmacies and soda fountains. As the like, I'm thinking of Coke, and you know, people are like, don't put Coke in things, and I've never actually put Lagavulin and Coke together, but you know, sodas are so like colas are so interesting. All the stuff that's in them, or that used to be in them before they were made the way they're made now with corn syrup and stuff. But and that pharmacy museum was that I must have gone to that 20 years ago or something. But like the concoctions that people put together with all the herbs and stuff and cola nuts, and so interesting. If you're ever in New Orleans, go to that.
Go to that. It is amazing. It's amazing. Absolutely. And I know, I'm pretty sure you've been to it too, but in the heat of the summer, in July, usually the last week in July, the drinks industry descends upon New Orleans for a festival called Tales of the Cocktail. And I took my mom and I went for a couple of days way back when it first started, and it was small enough to be in the Hotel Montleon. And I mean, it was just so much fun. I was like in my caipirinha stage, you know, I just had to have limes and casacha, and just, I mean, that was kind of my drink at the time, you know. And it's just an amazing learning experience. You can go as an enthusiast, but if you're in the drinks industry, it is a happening event for sure. So yeah, I mean, like,
I've actually never.
The lieutenant governor should be calling me about all the stuff I'm talking about, Louisiana.
Right? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Very cool.
So what's our next drink?
We ready for the next one? The next drink, I think, is tuxedo and evening wear for Scotch.
Oh my.
Amazing.
So what you're telling me is we may have to get the 4-inch heels out for this one.
This is 4-inch heels for it. Some people are going to get very upset at all the things I'm going to do to Lafroig in this one, but this is an equal parts drink, and an equal parts drink means equal parts of everything, which means it's really easy to make, and it's a bizarre drink. So this has these wild ingredients. This has...
Yeah, so I really want you to explain this. And this
Yeah.
drink is called the Scotch Last Word.
Yeah, so the original drink is called the Last Word, and it dates back to 1916. So it's a lot of drinks come out of post-prohibition. This is a pre-prohibition drink. Like,
oh, wow.
The martini and the Manhattan date from the 19th century. And I imagine people know about the martini and the Manhattan. This is a drink from later than that, but earlier than a lot of drinks that people might know. And the original is gin, Luxardo. You've probably seen this bottle, even if you don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Luxardo maraschino. The cherries, the really strange bright red cherries, are called maraschino, but this is maraschino liqueur made from Marasca cherries, and it's distilled from the cherries and the branches and the leaves and the whole 9 yards. Yeah, and it's still made by the Luxardo family along the Dalmatian coast in Italy, sort of like the Croatian coast. And then it's also got green chartreuse.
So on the Luxardo, we're talking a cherry flavor, right? Kind of or sort of?
Sort of. It's not sweet cherry. I mean, it's sweet because it also has sugar in it.
Yeah.
But it's like a nuttiness.
Okay.
Because so the theme of tonight is like stone fruit.
Okay.
The amaretto
Mm-hmm.
and the Luxardo. It's got like a chocolatey, nutty, vanilla, cherry flavor. It's a really, like, it announces itself, Luxardo. It's a really hard ingredient to use because too much and it overpowers you. You can put it on ice cream, like on vanilla ice cream. Green chartreuse also. I was going to say, who here has had it? Because I'm used to talking to a class of people, but it's going to be quiet. Green chartreuse is, you either love this or you hate it. And you can go from hating it to loving it if I keep giving it to you. This has 137 ingredients, and it's been made since the 1500s by Carthusian monks in France. And the recipe is secret. And it's got like an evergreen piney flavor. So these are like some real muscly, announce themselves ingredients. And then Laphroaig, also peaty, announces itself muscly.
These are got a personality. Type A kind of ingredients. These are I shall not be ignored ingredients.
Yes. And then the fourth ingredient, there are four ingredients, equal parts. The fourth ingredient is lime juice, fresh pressed. Like, no buying this in a bottle. Fresh pressed lime. Yeah. Okay. And green. So the other two are, clear or brown. Yeah. And green. And this is honest green. This isn't colored, right? This is honest green. Huh. Equal parts. And I poured them already because I was scared that I was going to mess it up.
No problem. Hey, Sean, it's good to see you here, my friend. So Sean, S4D, is from Scotch for Dummies. Sean, he's a chef and has a fabulous, many restaurants, but his one particular one, I'm sure you'll pick up something good here. I know he makes a mean penicillin. I've had it.
Love a penicillin. Okay, I'm going to shake and it's going to be loud.
Okay. No, it's all part of it.
Okay.
Get after it.
So equal parts. And so 3/4 of an ounce of each will give you a nice sized drink.
Okay. And a shaker with ice.
And a shaker with ice.
Yep.
Like people often don't use enough ice. Fill it up more than you think.
Okay, because you're going to strain it. So I'm guessing you're putting this in that chilled glass you had.
Awesome. I'm going to put it in the chilled glass. And I'm going to double strain it.
Double strain it.
20
Okay.
seconds. You can hear when it starts to get frosty, and you can hear
Yeah.
the change.
So you got to hear your cocktails too, not just drink them.
You got to hear them. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So she's had this glass chilling, y'all, with some water and ice.
Yeah.
If you didn't see that part.
So this has a little strainer already.
Yeah. So you're gonna
But
strain.
I'm going to double
and
strain because I don't want to have any ice shards or anything in this.
Gotcha. Okay. No pressure. We're just watching. Yeah, I think everybody's pretty stoked. Michael's talking about going to his Jack and Coke when he went out dancing in the 80s, and then went to Miller Genuine Drafts and a few wine coolers. We were all back there back in those days, Michael. Yep.
And this you garnish with a Luxardo, same brand as a Luxardo.
Yes.
And if you're going to do this, do it right. Do it with, they're expensive, but
they're so good.
You use the right cherry. Yeah.
And I have friends that buy the big cans of them. They go through so many. Yeah.
And I like to drop it down in the bottom so that it sits in the bottom like that.
Look at the color.
I just think that's the way to do it. And then the color is chartreuse. It should be.
It is.
It's made with chartreuse, which is where the name of the color comes from.
Absolutely beautiful.
And then I wish you guys could taste this. It seems mean to drink it without you tasting it. But
so you're gonna,
it's the last word. It's the last word in cocktails. It's the. I've had people try this, and if they don't like strong flavors, they don't like it. But y'all are Scotch people, and if you like strong flavors, and if you like Laphroaig, then these other ingredients complement Laphroaig so well. Lime and Laphroaig work so beautifully together, and it's unbelievable the way chartreuse, the piney evergreen in the chartreuse, goes with the peat.
Because some of the Laphroaigs also have almost like a pine creosote type little thing going on.
And then the nuttiness in the Luxardo. Because sometimes, look, we all love Laphroaig, but sometimes it's like, I'm not going to have Laphroaig tonight. But this is Laphroaig in a tux.
Now, see, I can see. I was just thinking, if you didn't use Laphroaig, you can use a different Scotch, an unpeated Scotch. I think it would probably fall a little flat.
Yeah, I think it would be flaccid. It would be, just like I wouldn't use a Lowland in a Godfather. I think it would be weak and simpering.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
What a great word! I don't want my cocktail to be simpering at all.
Yeah.
What a fabulous word for a word person.
I prefer to sip a Lowland and enjoy, the nuance of it and all that. But if I'm going to put it with lime juice, then you want some phenols and
Oh man, I'm so grabbing these when I get back from my trip, because that would be fabulous to have, especially down at the camp.
Yeah, when you're the whole atmosphere of that, I think, would be perfect down at the camp. I usually, if I'm mixing with a blend, I do Famous Grouse or Sheep Dip. Sheep Dip doesn't get used enough, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Monkey Shoulder is good, or Copper Dog, or any of those blends are good. But
I like the Compass Box, the Glasgow blend for a peat, and then that Artist blend. I like both of those too to mix with, because it kind of depends, especially if we at the camp. It depends on what we have, But I usually have a no brainer. It's not the Scotch that I'm going to sit there and delve over and pontificate and kind of go through my normal analytic. I just want a cocktail. I just want a Scotch. I don't want to think.
Not one of those
no
ones
brainer.
that's like, a half hour later it tastes like this.
Right. I've got other candidates for that job. I just want to chill and not worry about it. I've got a good book, and the air conditioning's running really nice in July. I'm just gonna sit there and have a nice cocktail and not really worry.
I have some airport buys that I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I got excited and I bought like the whole line of like the Highland Park ones in the nice bottles. Like, why did I buy those? The Sorry for anyone who really likes those, but like they're like really low ABV and they had really cool bottles that I thought at the time my husband would really like, all the Viking stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit and savor those, but
Right. Right. But they need to be used,
yeah,
so might as well, do something like that with them.
yeah. Although I wouldn't put those with lime. I think that would be weird and icky.
Yeah. I
But
like the idea of it.
that's what those would be good for cocktails, or to give to someone who comes over who doesn't like scotch enough.
Yeah.
We all do
Yeah.
that, right? I mean,
Right. And, I think you can look at the classics too, like an old fashioned. You can make an old fashioned
sure.
with a nice sherried scotch, I think would be really tasty,
Yeah.
and even you even might get even some of the spice like you would for a rye, instead of using what like bullet or something like you could use a sherry scotch and kind of get some of that European oak heat off of it in that same sense.
Yeah.
But for God's sake, don't muddle the fruit. Just don't. That's a New
Yeah.
Orleans thing, I'll tell you.
That's a mojito then.
But I
Right?
will tell you,
Yeah.
no, my friend
Yeah.
Kristen is notorious for like, "Hi, I'd like to order an old fashioned now. You're not gonna muddle the fruit, right?" She gets alignment with the bartender immediately on how they're gonna prepare that old fashioned before she commits to it for sure.
I think it depends how the whiskey is, though. I mean, you'd be surprised like what places still serve like really bad ice and the bright red cherries and and if it's really bad whiskey, I'd rather have muddled fruit
Yeah.
than you know.
Well, hopefully we're in better we're in better environments.
Yeah.
But you can't always tell, like, where you might be. What would you say would be a safe cocktail in kind of one of those places? Not necessarily a cocktail bar, but you're out with friends, you're out with dinner, you look at their scotch and you're like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I'll go with a cocktail, maybe,
Um,
replace it with scotch." But what would a good
well, I would
safe
definitely
bet?
get whiskey over wine if I was worried, because you don't know how long a wine's been open. Um, a sidecar,
A
but
sidecar. Yeah.
that's brandy. So
Yeah.
I don't know, because like, you can't really mess it up. Like you put Cointreau. I mean, you can mess up proportions, but Cointreau will last a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, whiskey sour. I don't know. It's hard to think about like what can people not mess up. I would just get a straight whiskey, I guess. What would you do?
Um, I kinda I do kinda detective work, and I'll sit back and I'll watch what other people are ordering, and I'll watch the bartender to see if, like, they got it, and if it's not, then, a whiskey sour is gonna be and I would say it one of the kind of a run-of-the-mill kind of place, they're gonna have a sour mix to put in it. It's not gonna be the actual, you know,
Yeah,
lemon or the lime, and,
that's true.
so, it kinda depends on how bad. Sometimes it's hard because you got better bottles at your own house.
Maybe a Godfather then, because
Yeah.
it's just a two ingredient. You can order a Scaffa, which is it's essentially the same thing. A Scaffa would be, look at the back bar and see if they have an Amaro, like a some sort of Amaro, and those can
Okay, what's
usually
in
last a
tomorrow?
long
You
time.
gotta help me out there.
Okay, so um, well, this is not an Amaro, but if they've got Benedictine,
Okay.
or they've got like a Verna, one of those Italian um, liqueurs
Okay.
with a whiskey. and you
Okay.
do it like in a 3-to-1 with
Okay.
whiskey and an Amaro, you can usually not go wrong. And
Okay.
then with a slice of citrus on top, like a slice of orange or something,
Yeah.
you can have a really nice drink then in a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 ratio.
Cool.
You know, even if it's Johnny Walker Red, which I know people are going to be like in the chat, but I'd rather have Johnny Walker Red than bad wine.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't run from that bad wine. It just kind of lingers.
Yeah.
It really, really does. So yeah, looking at the chat, I mean, people are really excited about this, and everybody's thinking, "Oh my God, the sour mix. That's just like run for the hills."
It's best to order a
Yeah.
beer. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
sometimes it is. So the Amaras are like Campari, Averno, Aperol. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very cool. Yeah, this has just been so interesting. I want to know, are you all just so inspired to go mix some cocktails now? Like grab your Lefroy, grab your Ardbeg, and start putting some things together. Yum.
Ooh,
I'm
Campari,
excited.
vermouth, and Scotch. I've never heard that before.
Oh goodness.
Campari, vermouth, and Scotch. Is that a sweet vermouth or a dry vermouth? It's got to be a sweet vermouth, right?
And Martin's in a warm climate. I bet that Johnny Walker Red and some ginger ale, I'm guessing.
Ginger beer?
Ginger beer over ice on a hot day. Woof. Absolutely.
I would take that over. Oh, it's a Manhattan with Scotch.
It's Manhattan Scotch. Okay.
Oh,
And it's sweet
no, a
from you.
Manhattan with Scotch is a Rob Roy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Gotcha. Very
Yeah.
cool.
There's
So
this idea that it's called the Mr. Potato Head theory of cocktails, that you just like swap ingredients. But I think that's kind of like, well, if I just swapped a different man for my husband, then it would be like, I don't think you can really do that with, I mean, like you swap gin for Scotch, it's a different drink. You can do it with some things and it's the
yeah.
same, but not others. Like, I guess I could swap him with some men and it would be the same, but not others.
Yeah.
I don't know. The metaphor breaks down, but
Right. I get what you're saying. And I think some of them are a little, like you said, a little easier. I think one of the things that from my palate, bourbon cocktails are really overtly sweet for me. So that's why I
yeah.
want to like play with some to look at getting that part into to kind of tone the sweetness down by using a single malt. So
Yeah. Interestingly, the last word, there's a riff on the last word with bourbon. I was going to say, does anyone know what it is? Paper plane, which maybe people have heard of, which is it's this last drink that I just made. But you swap out, instead of Scotch, you do bourbon. And instead of chartreuse, you do Aperol. And instead of lime juice, you do lemon juice. And instead of maraschino, so it's bourbon, Aperol, lemon juice, and what's the fourth ingredient? Bourbon, lemon juice. Oh, Amaro no Nino.
Oh, okay.
And then there's a Naked and Famous, which is also the same thing, but it's mezcal, yellow chartreuse, lemon juice, and I forgot what the fourth ingredient is. But so like there's like a whole set of those that work in the equal parts. So, but the idea is because bourbon's sweeter, then you pull back on some of the other ingredients.
Yeah. So Sean's talking about the blood and sand. That was one of our choices
Yes.
tonight. You want to talk a little bit about that, and that'll be one of the recipes I'll post as well.
That is a famously or infamously problematic drink. So it's named after a movie with Rudolph Valentino, a bullfighting movie. That's why it was blood and sand. And some people make it with regular orange juice, but the original drink was made with blood orange, which is a different flavor. I hate to use the word flaccid again, but orange. Okay, so orange doesn't have a lot of citric acid in it. Lemon and lime have a lot more citric acid. So orange is a little problematic to use in a cocktail because it doesn't stand up to the other ingredients. Blood orange has a different flavor profile. And so some people try to save the drink by using blood orange, which is actually a really old, it's not a new cultivar, it's an old fruit. And some people try to up the oomph of the drink by acid adjusting, by adding a little more citric acid. You know, you can buy citric acid in a big tub and adding it, but that starts to get like complex. So
yeah,
I haven't played around with it. I've had it out at like fancy molecular mixology places, and it's been okay. But
but it's that blood orange Scotch, the sweet vermouth, and then the cherry herring. Tell me what cherry herring is.
It's not sweet. It's a brandy, also made from cherries. It's very different than Luxardo. A bottle of cherry herring. It's a liqueur also.
Okay.
It looks like this if you see it. It has a different flavor profile. And I don't remember exactly what part of the cherry it's made from, whether it has pits in it or not. I think it has pits, but not the branches and leaves. But don't quote me on that. But it's sweeter than Luxardo, I think, but also not as cherryish as you would think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, cool. So yeah, we've Jessica was sweet to put together some different cocktail recipes that I'll post. We covered the Godfather, much like a rusty nail. The Rob Roy, which is like the Scotch version of the Manhattan.
Yes, a very old drink.
Yeah. So that you're going to have your Scotch sweet vermouth, some bitters, and stirring that and chill over ice, strain over ice. Garnish with your acid, your lemon, and your orange peel. I love that. And then the Gold Rush. Let's just kind of talk about that one for a sec, because there's a little prep to do with the honey syrup, right?
Yes.
And you can use
it's really easy.
Yeah. So I'm saying that honey syrup reminds me of the penicillin because it's the honey ginger syrup. So you can kind of maybe make the honey syrup and then take some of it and throw some ginger in it and have a different variation.
Yeah, those are recent drinks that came out of a bar called Milk and Honey in New York. And the Gold Rush came first, and then the penicillin is like a riff on that. And the Gold Rush is made with honey syrup, and then the penicillin was sort of a Scotch version of that. And so I was going to turn the Gold Rush into a Scotch drink for you.
Cool.
It's just honey syrup. It's kind of a cheat. I mean, it's sort of on the way to being a hot toddy. It's like honey syrup and Scotch. How hard is that?
I know. That will cure what ails you. And then the Bobby Burns. So we got, Burns Night's coming up. So this might be a really good one for that. So stay tuned to see that recipe. But it's, again, Scotch vermouth, the Benedictine. Yeah.
If you don't have Benedictine, it's just so many layers of flavor, and also a very old, not as old as chartreuse, but a very old. The guy who started Benedictine said it was from the 1600s. It's not. It's from the 1800s, but it's a very old recipe.
Very cool. So we went over the last word and then the blood and sand. So 6 cocktails we'll be posting for you all. And I would love to know what you all decide to do. which is very cool. Um, I think people are really enjoying all of this. Sean's like all about the blood orange. Stephen Works talking about his Rob Roy's. It just, people are pretty excited about this. Andrew Butler absolutely loves a rusty nail. So I think we just need to kind of, you know, pledge in the new year to try to play more with our whiskey and look at making some of these cocktails.
Yeah, you don't have to wear 4-inch heels.
No, no 4-inch heels. I do really like that term, and I posted it in the chat about a cocktail is like taking your spirit on a date. I love
Yeah.
that. Having a date with your spirit is having the cocktail. That's wonderful.
We don't have to always sit on the sofa in our sweats. Yeah.
I know.
Although it's really
We can
nice
get
to
all
do that.
gussied up and
Yeah.
and decide to do that. Oh man, this has been wonderful. I really, really do appreciate you being here. Can you hang around for a little bit in the back,
Sure,
and we'll
sure.
we'll shut her down, and I'll come back and see you on the backside of this. But no, really, truly, Jessica, thank you so much for taking the time. Y'all, we just had a master class from a Yale professor on the drinks industry. Thanks so much, friend, and
Thanks,
Slàinté to you,
guys, for
friend.
having me.
All right,
Bonjour.
that's it. So, y'all, truly, how much fun was this? I mean, I'm sitting here going, drinking my cocktail, going, hey, so much fun. I think we've gotten some really good ideas. Again, I'll post all the recipes tonight in the comment section. Uh, and just being able to play with your whiskey. If you feel like you need permission to play with Lafroig and Ardbeg 10 and put it in a cocktail, it's okay. I definitely want to go shop for some of these other liqueurs that frankly, I've been scared about, like I don't know what to do with that. I'm glad I know now that I need to put vermouth in the refrigerator. That's good to know. So low sugar, low ABV, it goes in the icebox. I think if you learn nothing more tonight, that right there will save you some money. So, but yeah, so thanks everyone for being here. I hope you had a great time. Um, Again, I will be on an airplane tomorrow afternoon going over to Seattle and then over to the Victoria Whiskey Festival. Jennifer, my cohort from the Isla Whiskey Academy, is meeting me up there. I'm getting to see Chad Anderson. I know you all see him here on the chat and over on Scotch for Dummies. I get to see Chad. I'm so stoked. Teresa, the Canadian whiskey smith, she'll be there. I'll get to meet her. Terry Lamb, Unbottling by Terry. Make sure you do go over to Instagram and follow the Drinks Academy. The Academy Drinks. I'll get there. I'll put that in the link as well for Jessica's her channel, her account in Instagram. And I'm really, really excited. I'm coming back on Monday. So next Tuesday's kind of iffy, but I'll let you know for sure whether or not we're going to be able to do a show on Tuesday with me coming back on two wheels from the whiskey festival. But I'm super excited about this particular festival. I'll be posting a lot on Instagram about it and on Facebook because it is very well established, and a lot of the distilleries are coming over. It is an entire whiskey. It's not just Canadian whiskey, it's world whiskey. There's a huge tracks of different sessions on Japanese whiskey. And then, so Friday night, we'll do a specialized tasting. And I'm actually going to be doing the Douglas Lane, I believe, tasting. And then on Saturday, there'll be 3 master classes, and everybody has really something different. I'll be doing Westland, SMWS, and Compass Box master classes, and then the grand tasting that night. So super excited about that. I'm going to be shooting crazy amounts of video for upcoming videos and to share on all that with you all. So really do appreciate. Thank you all for being here. We've had a great time. I'm going to finish this cocktail out. And until I see you again, my dear friends. Slàinté.